Today we're going to talk about optimists. The optimists of the world, you have to love them. These are the people who are doing and achieving. These are the leaders. All of us at one time or another are in an optimistic state of mind. It's a very common state of mind. And I think for evolutionary reasons, we developed this so-called optimistic bias or positivity bias because it helps us get things done. Why is that? Because if we spent too much time dwelling on the risks of a given decision, we would never do anything. We'd never get anything done. The problem, of course, is that for people who are in an optimistic state of mind, they tend to not give enough weight to the risks when making decisions. And this could lead to poor decisions that could be harmful to the person or to people around them. Now, this optimistic bias can arise in almost every area of our lives. I'm going to give a few concrete examples to make this clear. So it arises in the area of interpersonal relationships, for example. A person who's in the optimistic state of mind often can underestimate the problems with the relationship and only see the good in the person they're with, even if there are significant problems with the relationship. Now, of course, this has a good and bad side, the good side being that it can maintain a relationship over time. However, it can be problematic. I've had clients who have been in abusive relationships, and sometimes after they break up with the abusive partner, they might have a moment of weakness where they think about going back with that person. Maybe the warm feelings that they have for the person are coming up. The ex-partner is sweet-talking them, and they're only remembering the good parts of the relationship. Sometimes they have total amnesia about the abuse. This can be quite dangerous because it could result in going back into an abusive relationship. So in this situation, what we have to do is we have to anticipate that these moments might arise, and we have to plan for them. What the person has to do is they have to plan that when they get into the situation where they're thinking about going back with an abusive ex-partner, it's time to take a deep breath and to remember the reasons why they broke up with this person. This can be a very powerful strategy that can actually save a person from significant harm. This can also come up in the area of achievements and ambition. For example, in the area of athletic achievements or achievements in the arts or business or education, a person who's in an overly optimistic state of mind often is overly ambitious. They're not realistic about what they can achieve. The best strategy for this person is to plan for incremental improvements. For example, a person who's in an athletic competition, a race, instead of trying to shave several seconds off of their time, at the beginning, try something that's more realistic. Try to shave a half a second off of the time. And then after that, they can go from there and they can make more incremental improvements. If this person pushes themselves to achieve something that's just beyond their present capabilities, this can be a real motivating factor. Incremental achievements take the pressure off of the person and help them to improve themselves in a way that's more realistic. Another area where the optimistic bias comes into play is in the area of planning. These are people who are perpetually late for appointments, people who are late turning in assignments, people who underestimate the time and resources that are required to complete a project. What this person needs to do is they need to break down the project into its component parts, and they need to make a realistic assessment of the time and resources required to get from point A to point B, from point B to point C, etc. Now, this could be done from the person's own past experience. It could be done from the experience of other people, from statistics. The last area I'd like to discuss is the area of people who are engaged in irresponsible conduct because they're being enabled by someone else who is not allowing them to experience the consequences of their actions. That the enabler is shielding them from those consequences. Now, this can arise in many different contexts, but it's most frequently arises in the parent-child relationship, where the parent, with good intentions, wants to shield their child from failure. This is problematic for the child because the child never has to experience consequences. They're living in a consequence-free world, and they don't learn to make decisions that are founded in real consequences. They have this aura of invincibility because they never have to face consequences. For example, the child who's perpetually late in turning in school assignments. The worst thing that the parent could do in this situation is to rush in the night before the paper or the project is due and do it for their child or save the child in some fashion. Rather than get into a power struggle with the child, the better strategy is to allow them to make their own choice, to allow the child to experience the consequences of that choice, even if it involves a setback or a failure, because that's the only way that the child will truly come to understand that their decisions have consequences. If you found this video useful and informative, please like and subscribe.